Selamat siang, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to LunchTalk monthly discussion of this faculty. Part of the serious discussion of the Faculty of Education, Indonesian International Islamic University. Of course, we are very excited to have Bu Shintia Revina with us. Oh yeah, let me introduce myself first. I am Didin Shafruddin. I'm teacher at the Faculty of Education, and I taught Education and Society last semester. And I'm also teacher at the Faculty of Education and head of research at the Center of the Study of Islam and Society, Pusat Pengkajian Islam dan Masyarakat, Syarif Hidayatullah State University. I'm invited by the Dean of the Faculty of Education and the head of the department to lead a discussion for today discussion. Of course, I'm very excited. I'm very happy to join this discussion and to have Dr. Shintia Revina with us. The agenda of this LunchTalk, we will, the Dean of Faculty of Education, Prof. Nina Nurmila, will open the discussion, will give us a prologue before Dr. Shintia Revina presentation. And then after that, we will have a presentation by Dr. Shintia Revina and follow up by the question and answer. Hopefully all students, all participants here will actively respond to the presentation and raise questions. Please, if you have a question, you could put it in the raise hand, and or you could also state it in the chat box. Okay. For opening remark, please, the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Prof. Nina Nurmila, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Dr. Didin Shafruddin, one of the lecturers at the Faculty of Education. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli, amma ba'du. Honorable, our speaker this afternoon, Dr. Shintia Revina, thank you very much for coming to the LunchTalk. Yeah. And also I see all other lectures at the Faculty of Education, Dr. Tati Diwardi, the head of the study program of education, and then Ibu Dr. Charina, Dr. Destina, Dr. Bambang, Dr. Lukman, our students and participants. I'm glad that you can come to this LunchTalk. And this is our fourth LunchTalk, yeah, being held at the Faculty of Education. Sorry. This is our fourth LunchTalk. Sorry, I'm out of the meeting, yeah, and I saw that little bit of noise. And the first LunchTalk we had here in the Faculty of Education, we have Dr. Lukmanul Hakim, who have spoken about the group decision, and then Dr. Charina Ayu Rizkianti, who discussed about empathy. And then last month, we had Dr. Destina Wahyu Winarti, who spoke about developing Indonesian student special ability to support mathematical learning. And today, we are glad that we have Dr. Shintia Revina, the speaker from outside the Faculty of Education, that's from Semeru Research Institute, who will speak about teacher policies and teacher quality in education. And I saw the background of Dr. Shintia also is almost the same with Dr. Winarti, yeah. Your education, your previous education were all from, well, in the area of math, yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Shintia, for sending us your PowerPoint before you present it here. So I had the opportunity to read it. And then please allow me to reflect on it earlier before I have to leave to proceed to the meeting, yeah, the financial management at our university. So after the prologue, I will come out again from the meeting, and then I will watch the recording later. Well, here is my prologue. As a background, I have been working at the Faculty of Education and the teacher training at the State Islamic University in Bandung since 1994. So that means I have already been in that university is for more than 28 years. Yeah, and since the enactment of the law number 14 2005 on teacher and lecture, yeah, Undang-Undang Guru dan Dosen, I have seen actually many efforts done by the government to improve the quality and the welfare of the teacher and lecturer, not only through certification, but also to give scholarship to teachers to meet the minimum requirements of having a bachelor degree, or for lecturers to have a MA and doctoral degree. So I was involved in that teaching of the teachers, yeah, who were only have high school graduate only. And also to require teachers to complete teachers professional education, what we call PPG, Pendidikan Profesi Guru, in which I have been involved since 2009, yeah, because I did my PhD in 2007. I did postdoc and taught in America for 1 year. So I was active again in campus beginning 2009. So because of what I did for the Faculty of Islamic Education in my institution, the State Islamic University in Bandung, I am a bit disagree with the statement or argument stated in the PowerPoint that there is no or little effort in Indonesia to improve the quality of teachers. Yeah. However, I can agree with your opinion, Dr. Shintia, about that there is no reward or punishment for teachers who are doing well and who are not improving themselves. Yeah. So I remember, based on my experience in my university, there was the selection of the best lecturers, but the selector is the dean, yeah, who never entered the class to assess the quality of teaching of the lectures. Yeah, so it is like, yeah, the superior judge the quality of the lectures, not based on the teaching itself. Yeah. Not based on the choice of students. While if we are based on the choice of the student, I was awarded by my own students in 2011 as the best lectures. So there is a bias between who decide a good teacher or good lecture. If it is based on the students, they have different choice from that of chosen by the dean. Yeah. So I agree with you that Indonesia needs to think about the simple mechanism of evaluating lectures or teachers' performance, yeah, to allow justice for teachers who work hard and continue to learn to perform better, and to punish lazy teachers or lecturers who are not performing well. Yeah, I think that is all from me. Thank you very much, Dr. Shintia Revina, for being speaker in our lunch talk. And for all the listeners, please enjoy listening to the speaker and hope all of you could have a fruitful discussion. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks, Prof. Nina Nurmila. I think that's probably the question, the response that shared also by others. Yeah, government had made a lot of effort actually in improving the quality of the teachers and also their welfare. Okay, before Dr. Shintia Revina present to us her knowledge, her research experience, her expertise, I would like to introduce you first. Dr. Shintia Revina, currently Deputy Team Leader, RISE. RISE is research on improving system of education. That's part of Smeru Institute. Smeru Institute is one of the leading research institute in the country, very well known. And Dr. Shintia responsible in leading research, monitoring, evaluation, consultancy, public policy advocacy, and capacity development. Dr. Shintia has very strong background in education studies. Her doctorate from University of Hong Kong, master degree from Prudential Institute, Utrecht University, and BA undergraduate degree from State University of Jakarta, Universitas Negeri Jakarta. She is currently working on the impact of a pre-service teacher training program on the quality of teacher candidate and how the program contribute to student learning improvement, specializing in teacher education and curriculum and instruction. She is also involved in the study that explain the supporting or inhibiting factors of district education policy innovation. So she worked a lot in the national level and also in the district level. Dr. Shintia has published many works. Some of them I will mention some of them. First is socio-cultural driver of local educational innovation, finding from Indonesia, year 2020. Learning from home, portrait of teaching and learning inequalities in time of the COVID-19 pandemic, also published in 2020. The struggle to recruit good teachers in Indonesia, institutional and social dysfunctions, year 2020, systematic constraint facing teacher professional development in middle income country, Indonesia experience over 4 decades, also published in 2020. 4 decades of teacher professional development in Indonesia, 1 step forward, 2 basics, 1 step forward and 2 step back, published in 2019. Many other actually, but that's what I think because of the time I can mention here. Dr. Shintia Revina already joined with us, as Bu Tati mentioned, Bu Dekan mentioned, the Dean of Faculty of Education mentioned, our faculty members of this Faculty of Education, also students, and also we invite public also from the department, the faculty of probably from Islamic studies, from social science, and we invite also public to join. When you mentioned teacher, I always remember the name of my teacher, Pak Suharno. I remember Pak Kiai Uyeh Balukia Shakir, and I remember Pak Sudarno. Those teachers are the one that I feel very close with them. I learn not just knowledge, but values, attitude, the personal and social interaction we have. So teacher is very central. So that's why the studies show that probably still true today, that teacher is a factor that determine the quality of learning. That's why RISE research on improving system of education that Dr. Shintia as the leader of this institute of that institute very much engaged in studying government policies, how the government of Indonesia recruit a good teacher, what is the criteria of good teacher, and how do they select, then how do they employ, and then how do they develop professionally, and whether or not all the effort that government took have a good impact to student learning. So Dr. Shintia already very much engaged in that discussion. Of course, we are very excited to hear from her, and I think I cannot wait more to hear from your sharing, Dr. Shintia Revina. Please, time is for you now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Didin and Ibu Nina for a very warm introduction. And actually, I would like to thank Ibu Tati and Pak Sirojudin Arif, actually the one who invited me to this talk. I really appreciate this invitation, and not only that, maybe it's really nice to hear that RISE studies can give inspiration to some of the readers, but for us, it's also important that we can deliver the message to as many audience as possible, because we would like our research not only reach the policymakers, but also reach academics, just like Bapak Ibu here and students in the university. So it's likewise that we also, I'm also happy to be here, Pak. So on my background, actually, Bapak Ibu, I'm actually Dr. Destina Wahyuwinarti was my flatmate when we did our study at Utrecht University. So Mbak Des and I lived together for 1 year. We know each other really well. But with Mas Sirojudin, actually, we've been working together for 3 years, almost 3 years now. Before pandemic, we sometimes met each other in the Smeru Hall, but not really talk much. And after the pandemic, we work together, but then we can see each other from screen. I've never met him in person again after the pandemic. Actually, it would be nice if next time I can see Mas Sirot or Mbak Destina in person again, as well as with Bapak Ibu.
We will establish chapter of RISE in Depok.
RISE cabang Depok gitu ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have RISE cabang Cikini, Pak. Then you can expand it to cabang Depok. Yeah, actually, Mbak Destina, Dr. Destina and Dr. Sirojudin Arif now also they are helping us in RISE to write some of our works. So then in few months, maybe in the coming months, you will see some of their work published as well as our working paper. So really looking forward to that. So this kind of partnering, I think it's partnership is really good for research institute, because sometimes you know, SMERU is a leading institution in research, but it's mostly on socioeconomic issues. Education may not be the you know, the expertise of SMERU. So we really look forward to collaborate with academics if Bapak Ibu have interest in the issue that we are researching actually. Yeah. So Pak Didin, I think that's some introduction from me. Maybe we can just start the
Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
But before that, I just want to respond to what Ibu Nina mentioned about agreement or disagreement. I think it's nice to always have debates or different, you know, different point of view or perspective, and I really open to discussion after my presentation. So if you have different respond, or you think what I deliver is different from your experience, I think that will enrich our discussion. So actually what we are presenting here, not of course it's based on the research that we've done, but we always open to improvement. And if you have some suggestion on how we could add the analysis in our studies, we are really open to that part. So this is not you learn from me, but we learn from each other. Yeah, okay, maybe Mbak Nadia can help with the presentation, please. Thank you. Yes, so here I would like to talk about the teacher quality and teacher policy. And as Pak Didin mentioned before, when we talk about education, I believe that many of you are here from Faculty of Education, or you yourself are interested in education issues, or at least lecturer in higher education. So we are quite familiar with teaching quality, or the how actually the Indonesian education define about quality of teaching, in whether it's in basic education or higher education. We all kind of knowing that it's not really a clear definition of what quality teaching is. As to ourselves, like most of the time, our teaching quality, just like Ibu Nina mentioned, is just measured by the attendance of whether we attend, whether we come to the classrooms, but whether we teach well or not, it's not really matters to our schools or to our university. And maybe I will share some teacher policy here, not all, but I will mainly focusing on teacher recruitment, maybe some about teacher motivation and teacher development programs. But if you want to discuss about other policies, I really open about that after our discussion. Okay. So yeah, next, Mbak Nadia, please. So I would like to start by discussing the problems of staffing the classrooms. Actually, we all know that in many places, in many districts in Indonesia, we still face these teacher shortage problems. That is, the number of qualified teachers relative to the number of students is considerably low. And with the student-teacher ratio in 2012, for example, not only in Indonesia, but globally, being approximately 40-1. So meaning 40 students for one teacher. This is still a good number. In some areas, maybe you have heard that one teacher has to teach all grades, grade 1 to grade 6 in primary school. In cities or districts like in more developed parts of Indonesia, like in Java, maybe it doesn't happen anymore, but we know outside Java it's still the case. And new approaches for increasing the supply of qualified teachers, of course, are required. And some countries, including Indonesia, are turning to contract teachers. So this is not to blame the quality of contract teachers, because some studies actually found that contract teachers have better motivation to teach than a civil servant teacher. But the problem that contract teachers are not recruited properly, maybe that's become a new problem. Unfortunately, this increasing of supply not necessarily lead to better quality teachers. So even the qualified teachers are ill qualified. I think if Ibu Nina here, when she talk about PLPG or PPG, about teacher certification, some of you, I believe you know about the issue of teacher certification, not only teacher certification, but also lecturer certification. Even those who are get the stamp from the ministry that you are a certified lecturer or you are a certified teacher, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you are a good quality teaching staff. So when teacher supply increases, basically teacher quality does not necessarily increase, and this one of the resource of this that the existing recruitment system of our new teacher is not ensuring to attract and select highly skilled teachers. So next slide, please. Yeah, and here I just would like to outline some challenges in recruiting good teachers in developing countries, including in Indonesia. And first of all is that low quality, we have low quality of the pool of teacher candidates. So when I say this, actually, I do not mention that all teacher candidates have low quality, but in general, we have low quality of the pool of teacher candidates. So of course, there are universities with good quality. For example, some state university, I myself was graded from Universitas Negeri Jakarta. The screening is quite, we have to pass some tests to enroll to the program. But out of 400, for example, I heard that there are 400 or more LPTK teacher colleges actually before this. Pak Didin, and Pak Didin mentioned that more and more university open Fakultas Tarbiyah or FKIP or education faculty, and maybe many of them recruited students with low standard or with low entrance requirement, and this actually contribute to the low quality of the pool of teacher candidates. Unfortunately, even when the teaching professions has low status now in society and low wages do not attract the best candidates, even after the certification allowance, I think best graduates from high school still do not feel attractive to the teaching profession. And even more, the low quality teacher training institution, even teacher candidates with high entry scores sometimes are not well trained, including myself. I mentioned to Pak Didin, when I graduated from Bachelor of Education, I feel I can be a good math teacher, but by good math teacher, I can answer difficult or hard math questions, but not necessarily that I can facilitate students learning, a good students learning, or resulted in higher student achievement, something like that. So I don't think at that time my university already prepared me to be a good teacher. Yes, I can answer hard mathematical questions, or I can give work sample to my students, but I don't think I understand what it's actually being a good teacher, and the good practice of pedagogical skill that I got from my university is very limited. Okay, Pak. Next slide. Yes. And the second challenge is actually the thin versus thick standards. So in Indonesia, we use this thin standard, and by thin standard, actually, the teacher hiring is part of generic civil service, often centralized. If you see the picture here, actually, maybe some of you had experience in this civil servant, the recent civil servant test. Actually, all profession, teaching or non-teaching, actually you go into or you enter a big hall, a big room, and then you will have this computer-based test, and then your fate will be decided in that room. If you can get the passing grade, you can go into the next round. If not, then you will not have any opportunity to perform. Whether you can teach or not, it doesn't really matter, as long as you can answer all the multiple choice question in that in that test. Then you can go to the next round of the civil servant assessment. And the assessment for teacher, for receptionist staff, for other professions that not related to teaching are the same. For the sort. So in the next round, you may be graded based on your knowledge about teaching, but it's not, sometimes it doesn't really. At the recent development is that as long as you have this teacher certificate, teaching certificate, you will get 100% score in the second round. So again, it's very thin standard. As long as you have the certificate, you don't need to perform whether you can do the job or not. That's different from thick standards. Thick standards mean you have to show that you can do the job to so you can be assessed that you can really do teaching well, just like Prof. Nina mentioned. And yeah, next, the third one, I think this is related to the absence of curation period. Actually, if you see the picture here, I would like to illustrate that once you get accepted as public school teacher in Indonesia, you will get this SK, surat surat keterangan, just like the decision letter from government saying that you will be a civil servant teacher for the rest of your life, if until the retirement, even though you have not started your job. Of course, there will be a CPNS period, but that's all formality. And it's more on administrative, and even there's no continuation from the contract teaching period to the civil servant status, the permanent status, and contract teaching is not used as learning period. And here, firing government teachers are nearly impossible. I never heard that really happen, Pak Didin. Okay, next. But the fact is that the teachers are hired anyway. So how they are hired, the next question is then what purpose actually they fit for. And if the assumption is person job fit, I don't think so, because we don't have mechanism to ensure that teachers have adequate competence in delivering quality teaching, and we need this urgently, actually, Pak. But so far we don't have this. Next, if it is person group fit, Next. If it's person group fit, actually our schools has no authority or involvement in civil servant teacher recruitment, and in contract teachers recruitment, our school also do not have the capacity to ensure the quality of contract teachers. Virtually no selection process. As long as you know the kepala sekolah, you know the school principals, as long as you are agree with the term of employment, the informal employment, then you can teach in that school. So it's not even person group fit. There's no mechanism that ensure you are fit to the school as the group. Next. So is it person organization fit? By organization here, so from Indonesia example, teacher recruitment is authorized and managed by the General Civil Servant System in Kementerian Pan-RB, and then the civil servant probationary period emphasize compliance with administrative regulation and alignment with civil values, nationalism, and patriotism. So maybe our teachers are recruited to fit the organization or the state objective, but then is it really the teachers that we want to teach our kids? Are we happy that our teachers are selected for this purpose, or do we want that our kids in our public schools actually taught by teachers that fit for the job and fit to the schools? So that's a question actually, Pak, rather than a statement. Okay. I think I will conclude about this teacher recruitment policy with 3 points. One is that the problem of poor teacher recruitment is maintained by the absence of motivation to improve the system and the existence of political gains of recruiting teachers with minimal screening process. So the less screening process implemented by our policymakers, the happier the teacher will be. So if you apply more rigorous screening process, you will get a complaint from many stakeholders, and you don't want to get that bad feedback. So our study, our paper discuss about this more in more detail. And then the political interest, the second one is that political interest in improving the education sector appears to focus more on increasing teacher supply and teacher welfare, because you know this inequality in Indonesian education system, we like it or not, we still need to increase teacher supply in some areas. We still cannot talk about teacher quality because we still talk about the quantity, and then we have this problem with teacher welfare, especially for contract teachers, guru honorer. We know that in some areas, like in Jakarta, maybe the civil servant teacher may earn up to 15 times of contract teachers, and that's while they teach the same classes, they get really low remuneration compared to the other teachers. And with that condition, you cannot really talk about teaching quality. And the last one is that the quantity of teacher and the wages issue are visible to constituents, while improving the quality of education may go unnoticed. So I think it's not yet the interest of our policymakers to focus on this. And next issue, next policy that I would like to talk about is on the incentive and teacher motivation. I guess this is related to the teacher certification. But let me start with discussing the relation between teacher skills and motivation, and why the relation between teacher skills and motivation to teaching quality, and why it really matters actually. If Ibu Nina mentioned earlier about the teacher law, the 2005 teacher and lecturer law, Actually, the education policy discussions already identified that teacher quality and motivation is the key limitation, among the key limitation on the performance of our education system. So I know that in the beginning of policy discussion of this teacher law, there's some attempt to include performance review in the allowance system of this certification. But again, because it's politically expensive and so many this demonstration and I guess many people the education society itself do not agree with this idea of performance review as conditional to the allowance. Then as we know today, the policymakers do not continue this initiative. But it's not only in Indonesia, it doesn't only happen in Indonesia, it happens in many developing countries as well. From rice studies, they inform us the same. And then actually we come to some knowledge that education system in many countries neither reward teachers for performing well nor penalize them for performing poorly, as our case. But we also know that fostering teacher motivation with incentive can improve learning if only the incentivized actions are within teachers' capacity, and if the failure to perform those actions has impeded learning. So I can imagine why the policymakers during the teacher law in 2005 did not continue this conditional the conditional do not set the conditional requirement to the allowance, because they see potential that it's not within teacher capacity, at least most of the teachers. So they do not proceed this further. Next book. And this is a diagram that I learned from my colleague Barbara Bruns from RISE, that actually there are many not only many sources of teacher motivation, not only the incentive in terms of materials or bonus pay, but there are many others. But unfortunately, in Indonesia case, maybe the intrinsic motivation is low, the working condition is poor, the recognition and prestige is not there, mastery and professional growth is not there. Maybe we can rely on this job stability, yes, but our parents do not put pressure on schools as long as teachers are in the classrooms, whether they teach or not, as long as they are there, parents are really happy. This because of in the past the teacher absence is really high, so parents are already happy if somebody can watch their students to be in the classrooms. And managerial and peer feedback from kepala sekolah or from school principal is there. And system-wide performance evaluation, we don't have that. Rigorous evaluation, the salary level and differentials, government tried to improve that. Pensions and benefit, the civil servant have that. The bonus pay, we have the allowance. So mostly we rely on this financial incentive, not really on accountability pressure, and not really on professional rewards. Okay, next. So actually, when we talk about the accountability system, this is a huge concept, of course, but previous studies show that by strengthening the accountability system, actually teachers feel more motivated. And while teacher motivation works through some sort of behavioral mechanism, Like if someone observe your performance, that will offer a form of professional motivation, of course. And on teacher evaluation, when I, as a teacher, know that my performance will be assessed with high standards, of course, I would like to prepare myself. I don't want that others see me teaching with not up to the standards, and I would make efforts to improve my quality of my performance. But this doesn't really happen in our classrooms. And in the absence of this accountability pressure from management, like from the school principals, from the Ministry of Education, teachers, that's understandable that teachers may minimize their efforts, even when students or parents wish them to do more. So in a recent studies, actually in Argentina and in Uganda, more than 1/3 of teachers see themselves do not see themselves responsible for their students' learning. This is sad, but in Senegal, the share is even higher, more than half. This study didn't really include Indonesia, but I can imagine the result is not really different, maybe, for Indonesia. Next. Then, talking about motivating teachers with financial incentives, how it's actually work and how it doesn't work. So we try to argue here that if we talk about the principal-agent relationship, so the agent here is the teacher, and the principal is that the one who put pressure on the agent to perform. And when the education system signals that learning is not valued, teachers will not have the same incentive as students and parents have. Of course, the student and parents would like that their students to learn as much as they could, want to have good education, but maybe the teachers think whether or not my students learn, that's will not bring any difference on me. So why should I really care about that? It's really matters if my school principal is not happy with me. If I don't come to school, then it will matters to me. But whether my students can read, can count or not, that doesn't really matter from the perspective of external motivation. Unless the teachers have a good intrinsic motivation, then the teachers will not have the same incentive as the student and parents. And this financial incentive aim to I can say to help this to increase teacher motivation. But teacher financial incentives have been effective only in countries with high absenteeism in the past, such as India and Kenya. But in many countries, high pay is not a reward for good teaching or performance. Like in Indonesia, it's unconditional pay, and most teacher pay scales actually advance automatically with seniority. Like my own mother is a teacher, civil servant teacher, and I know that every 2 years, she said, Ibu akan naik golongan. So her salary will increase automatically every 2 years or every 4 years, whether or not she teach well. So yeah, so that's what happened here. Yes, next. So this diagram here on the right side actually show us a very nice summary of what developing countries, or this is most of countries, I think, not only developing one, yeah, the OECD countries motivate teachers by financial incentive, how much actually teachers earn to the per capita GDP. And if you see, Indonesia is really on the bottom of this chart, it's like 50% of GDP per capita. But see Ethiopia, one of rice countries, actually their teachers quite rich in their country because they earn nearly 6 times Padidin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, the higher pay doesn't guarantee that you have good quality teachers. Yeah, of course we can discuss this, but let me summarize that in most OECD countries, an average teachers earn somewhere between 75% and 150% of GDP per capita. In Indonesia, it's lower, but most country in African economies actually, like Nigeria and Ethiopia, pays their teacher nearly 5 times or even 7 times of the GDP. Okay, next. So when salary increase, does teacher motivation increase? Actually, Pak Didin and Bapak Ibu, we have a very famous paper by our colleagues Meno Pradhan and his colleague. So Meno Pradhan is the principal investigator in RISE Indonesia. Actually, he has a very infamous paper called Double for Nothing. If you have heard about this, this is a paper about how sad it is for the government to launch this teacher certification program without impact. So double for nothing. And some lessons from this paper is that education policy discussion that I mentioned about teacher law actually say that we need to increase teacher salary, because when teacher don't have this decent salary, how come they think about quality? But then when the government implement this certification policy, and would like to include high standard assessment conditional to the good performance of teacher, then many parties, including teacher unions, oppose this idea of increasing teacher standards, including teachers themselves. They don't agree with this. And the eligibility criteria to be certified is seniority, not merit-based, and refers to thin the certificate, or as long as you have bachelor degree last time, or like my mother time, the portfolio, the certificates from seminars and so on are adequate. So you can be certified. Nowadays, you have to take the PPG, but again, our studies show that PPG also doesn't have impact. PPG or non-PPG teachers, they produce students with no significant difference in learning outcomes. So in practice, the certification process only requires teachers to submit portfolio of their teaching, and increase teacher salary is nearly unconditional. Okay, Bu, next. And from this paper, from the same paper, we also learned that maybe in the future, these teacher certification allowance can attract new teacher candidates, better teacher candidates. But our study also confirmed that yes, while the selection of entrance into teaching after a decade of policy implementation improved, we have teacher candidates who have higher score in their own score, but it has no effect on student learning outcomes. Yeah, Bu, next. And actually, this is another study from Kiat Guru, but I will just quick here. So Kiat Guru is one of the projects that implemented in Kalimantan, Pak. So this try to think how to include accountability system in performance pay. So because in Kalimantan schools, many schools are remote and teachers do not show up at school, the absenteeism is quite high. So the World Bank colleagues and our principal investigator, again, Meno Pradhan, he initiate this Kiat Guru with camera involved here, that teachers' attendance were recorded, and then this will be enforced by school principals with regulation, resources, on-site guidance. But to be honest, this is too expensive to be scaled up. So yes, it works during the pilot, but yeah, they improve learning outcomes as well, but this is again too expensive to be scaled up in other place, because at that time they get support from World Bank, they got the financial incentives or the support from the facilitators. But when these facilitators not there anymore, we also question the effectiveness of this kind of high touch intervention. Okay, I think I would like to go to the last slide, Ibu. Yeah, so last slide before this. Yeah, so actually what reforms seem to work in motivating teachers, what policy, I mean, like first is that the one which is designed to motivate teachers as well as school leader performance, because if you only motivate teachers but nobody watch them, that's also doesn't really work. And this policy also need to require actions that are within teachers and school leaders capacity. If this is too too far away from their reach, they will say, no, I cannot do that. I don't even want to try. And of course, the reform has to be based on clear objective and targets. And then the reform should link the performance and financial incentive. You cannot have this unconditional financial incentive for teachers. Otherwise, teachers will have new car, new house with the teaching allowance, with the double salary, but they don't improve their teaching quality. Actually, they getting some people say nowadays teacher getting richer, but they teach less. And the reform also has to be based on comprehensive performance measure. Again, we need to set this together. Actually, yeah, I think we have so many fakultas tarbiyah, like you say, FKIP, but nobody really think about this, how to develop this comprehensive performance measure that can ensure teachers actually can comply to this teacher recruitment. Maybe we can use this as basis to recruit our teachers as well, Pak. Yeah, I think that's all from me, Pak, and maybe we can discuss more during the Q&A. Thank you, Pak Didin.
Thank you. It's fascinating, yeah, the presentations. I think so many questions. Before my colleague, I would like also, I'm thinking why, are we really clear what is a good teacher? What is good teacher? I mean, if refer to Ki Hajar Dewantara as an example, for example, he didn't so much concern with the math and science and what else, with the knowledge accumulation, with the scientific inquiry, more on character building, more on nationalism, patriotism. And if we look at the education law for the teacher and lecturers, there are 4 competence, right? personal competence, and then what social competence, professional competence, and then pedagogical competence. I think this is the source of confusion. Why should personal social also mention? This is an education institution which has to be really concerned with the knowledge creation, advancement. I'm afraid that the education law itself a source of confusion. What is good teacher? If you look at, for example, the curriculum in the Faculty of Education, yeah, more and more on pendidikan agama, on Pancasila, on now PPKN, and on the uniform, you have to really stick to the uniform, obedience. So it seems we are not clear yet actually what is a good education. What I mean with we is government, and then those who run the education institution, the teacher, also the parent. Probably they don't demand what is assessed by PISA, numeric literacy, reading literacy and science literacy. I'm afraid also that's the source. Pak Bambang already raised his hand. Please, Pak Bambang.
Alright, okay, terima kasih Pak Didin.
Pak Bambang is our faculty member.
Halo Pak.
Okay, terima kasih. Alright, okay, thank you very much, Bu Shintia. It's very insightful and informative information that you provide, and then some of your presentation just like recall memory for me. Previously doing some research about teachers education and then policy in education, right? So it's something familiar for me, and all for the education lecturers and as well as a student also, right? So we know there's a lot of problem in this not clear direction, right? So what you call this, but I just want to have your opinion based on the recent program and the recent policy that produced by the Ministry of Education and Culture. Do you think we go to the right direction in terms of improving quality teachers? Because as we know that as a big country, the challenge in terms of improving quality teacher is always a very huge task. It happened also in US or any other big countries, okay? India or maybe Russia. Managing big countries is always problematic. So in your own opinion, or maybe your prediction, a kind like Merdeka Belajar or Guru Penggerak, is it kind of another gimmick, or is it really changing directions of the quality of education? I just want your honest opinion. Thank you. Terima kasih Pak Didin.
Pak Bambang, this is interesting but difficult question. I guess you have two questions. First is you would like to see what I think about the current teacher policy, and the second one is about the slogans or the new development in the government program. So one is the teacher policy and one is the government program. So let's see the teacher recruitment as an example, Pak. So when everyone say we have problem with guru contract, with guru honorer, what government issue was the in 2005, if you remember, there was a policy saying all contract teachers, you are exempted from civil servant task. You can everyone, even already exceeding 35 years, you be civil servant teachers. That's until Pak SBY era in 2009, 2012, I guess. Then the government always play this politically. They do not improve the teacher recruitment system. Rather, they create another policy that make it worse. From my point of view. And then now we have the recent one, we have PPPK. And by PPPK, actually, now schools are not allowed to recruit guru honorer anymore. But then in the ground, when classroom are unattended, who have to make decision? The school principal. You like it or not, you still need guru honorer because the government cannot provide a sufficient number of teachers. And then the PPPK itself is not a solution to me because it's just another form of civil servant teacher. You know, it's ASN that in different form, and the test itself just the same with the civil servant teacher. So what we urge actually, Pak, in 2019, when we have this new Minister of Education, actually there was a conference in Ministry of Education inviting the sekolah swasta, the private schools, good private schools, and asking how they recruit teachers, how they how they nurture teachers, how they can have good teachers in this I can say expensive schools in Jakarta. I was there, but it stopped there. I don't know. I think there are many lessons that we can learn from this session, but the ministry decided not to go further with this discussion. They continued the PPPK and the this the same the PNS teacher scheme. And when we try to talk about this with the ministry, they say not the high rank, but we would like to get opinion from the ministry staff on our recruitment study. And when we also had a chance to interview someone from member of parliament from DPR and also from DPRD Jakarta, because we know the salary of teachers in Jakarta is really high. Everyone wants to be the civil servant teacher in Jakarta. I know some of them earn more than 15 million rupiah per month. That's even higher. It's even higher than some private company salary in Jakarta. So we asked them, you have this high tunjangan, high allowance, why don't you apply higher standard for your teachers? They said there's only one standard, and that's national standards from Kemenpan RB. We cannot really do anything. The DPR, they say, I have the money, but I don't have the power to intervene the policy. That's what a policymaker told me. So I was shocked, but I kind of expected that kind of answer. And from DPR, they mentioned we would like to, we have this constituent. If we know that teacher salary matters, but if we apply this to Indonesia nationwide, it will not effective. So from his point of view, there's only one policy for 34 provinces, and for Jakarta, the rich province, said the policy is not on my hand. It's on DPR. So it's kind of contradictory one another. Yeah. So yeah, that's if you ask my opinion, my humble opinion, whether it's going in the right direction, it's not. So the second question about the slogan of Guru Penggerak, Sekolah Penggerak or Kampus Merdeka, I kind of agree with you a lot that it's another gimmick, because I don't know, in your university maybe it's different. You really create this freedom of thinking for your students, or open discussion with lecture. I think it's kind of the manifestation of Merdeka Belajar, right? You can have this freedom in inquiry, things like that. But in most, I think in most cases, this, you know, if I can put this into a nice sentence, actually, we just had a talk with RISE colleagues past week. We call this sometimes some kinds of ignorance breeds incoherence, and incoherence breeds ignorance. So if you want to keep walking, you have to ignore all this incoherence. Otherwise, you will not walk at all. You will not have any program, right? So this ignorance create another incoherence. So it's kind of, you know, unless someone would say, okay, stop here, look back, and we are progressing. Like I said, it's kind of, you are progressing, you are moving one step forward, but actually you step back, like two steps back. Like you seems like you are moving, but actually you are not progressing, things like that. So yeah, Pak, I of course we have to tidak boleh sujon gitu ya Pak. We have to keep believing with the government, but yeah, I don't see that this is in the right direction.
Dian Sinta Pertiwi already raised hand, but before Dian, I would like to read the questions. We will end the discussion in 3:30, so the time is running out already now. Almost we have only 19 minutes to discuss. The question come from Yeni Rahmawati. Probably this is my colleague at the Faculty of Education, Sarif Hidayatullah University. This is very interesting talk by Bu Shintia. I agree that defining teacher quality is not straightforward. Many factors should be taken into consideration. When teacher government refer to PISA or international standard to define teacher quality, do you think teachers should have voice to define teacher quality by themselves, which include probably their experiences in teacher education? So do you think the teacher have voice? Okay, and then Ibu Siti Nurlazkia, I guess also. I missed the first part of the presentation, but I think the government policy in improving teacher quality are somewhat not clear and not based on sound research. Ibu Cynthia has suggested some direction, but if we think of the short-term strategy, what should be done by our government or school or teacher so that teacher can be quality teacher? This is two very good questions. And Dian, please, your questions.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's a very insightful presentation, Ibu Cynthia, and what a coincidence. This actually related to the materials that we had in one of our courses about educational policy analysis. So I'm very interested to discuss further about this with you. The first one, I would like to comment and probably show my agreement about the definition of teachers and lecturers based on the law in Indonesia, right? So if you see in the undang-undang, it's stated that guru adalah pendidik profesional dengan tugas utama mendidik, like teaching, guiding, directing, training, so many vocabulary there, so many verbs. But I think if you read that once again, it's so one-sided. It's like you define teachers. The point is that you're knowledgeable, but we know for people who work in education field, teaching is much more than that. Regarding this definition, which I think is quite awkward, I would like to share the personal experience that I had when I was working in secondary and higher level of education. I was waiting for you to mention about this, but turned out that it was not part of your presentation. So I would like you to comment about this. One of the things that I met is actually based on the definition that we have, it's already constructed in the public. Teachers become profession that, in my opinion, safe and repetitive. When I was a teacher in school, once an academic year passed, basically you're safe, like you're experienced. Because the next or the following academic years, you meet another students, you just need to repeat what you have, right? Both the materials, both the teaching methods. So it becomes quite annoying, let's say, because we don't want to generalize that all teachers are bad. For those who are looking for safe zone, that's your place. Just repetitive from one academic year to another. But then for people probably who have different interest or probably a personal conflict, becoming a teacher becomes something like not challenging anymore. And we can see from so many teachers quit and then move to another industry or business as a profession. So I would like you to comment on that, because that's, I believe it's still happening in the field, about the mindset and the implementation of being a teacher as a safe and repetitive job. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah, Dian is,
maybe
yes. Any other?
maybe I respond to
Okay.
the three questions
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
I already forget the first question actually, Pak Didin. I
The
will
direction.
ask again. Maybe I would like to start by Ibu Dian and go backward to the second and to the first question. So Ibu Dian, thank you for sharing this. And actually, if I can guess, you are teaching in a private school, Bu? Yes, in private school, I had experience in teaching both private school and public school. In private school, it's already good if teachers keep doing repetitive things consistently. To me, it's already good thing, because in public school, it's much more worse, if I could say that. So what happened is that we have this study book called Teacher Diary Study. The working paper already published in our website. We follow teachers who already graduate from PPG, primary school teachers, for 2 years. And we found that teachers said they often have these tensions, dilemma, that whether I have to do school administrative or whether I have to prepare lesson plan, good lesson plan for my students. They're still young teachers. And then the kepala sekolah, the school principal say, I want the report tomorrow. Then she said, okay, my my supervisor wants me to do this. And when her heart says, I want to think more about my students, she decided not to, because what matters to her performance is her relationship with the school principal and schools, not her teaching performance or the quality of her lessons. Nobody cares what she is doing in the classrooms, whether she only sit and work with her laptop or whether she teach very well. It doesn't really matter for the school principal. So it makes her think that, oh, this is what matters. So I prioritize what matters. So to me, when you say it is a repetitive job, it's already good enough to do the repetitive good things consistently. What happens in public school is the thing that I described to you. So yeah, that's really happening. And when it comes to lesson plan, this young teacher learned the trick that they don't need to prepare this, because the MGMP, Musyawarah Guru Mata Pelajaran, or KKG, Teacher Working Group, Kelompok Kerja Guru, already prepare ready-made, so they don't need to do anything about it anymore. So whether they teach according to lesson plan, whether they teach according to syllabus, it doesn't really matter for anyone. So they said, okay, then this is just administrative. I will just do what is being asked. What matters is that. So sadly, I have to tell you the story that happened. But I agree with you a lot that these teachers actually need to be reviewed or assessed periodically, so they can have more motivation to improve themselves throughout their career. And maybe this is related to the first and the second questions. The second question is easier because I can read here. I will ask about the first question, Pak Didin, because I already
The
forgot.
voice is there. Is the teacher?
Oh, the voice.
Yeah, voice
Well,
of the teacher.
Well, about the voice of the teacher, it's kind of dilematic, Pak. Dilematis sebetulnya. I had this experience developing textbook, Pak, in Pusat Perbukuan dan Kurikulum Nasional di Gunung Sahari, in the National Book and Curriculum Center, with teacher. So I was teaching, because my background is mathematics education, just like Dr. Destina. So I help the government to review their textbook. But the one who developed these are teachers. In one side, they want to hear the teacher's voice, but because these teachers themselves, even the best one, the one who already get the award, Pak, Guru Terbaik Nasional, they don't have experience on experiencing what good teaching is. So they mimicking, they copy their good teachers from their time. So they said, this is what good teaching looks like to me. But when we see again closely, many things are missing, because see only talking about superficial things or something that is routine. They don't, this teacher don't really, encouraging students to think. She just asks students to do routine things, so things like that. So when we talk about developing student thinking, developing student reasoning, teachers said, I already do that to their version. But actually, since they have no prior experience on what it is, they never in a situation that, in this kind of forum, maybe like teachers never asked to do inquiry themselves, so they don't know what inquiry is, what thinking process is, how to facilitate that. So in one side, I agree that teacher voice should be heard, but another thing is that maybe we need to redefine. So it's related to the second one, to redefine what is expected from them. Actually, if we think, oh, teacher understanding about fostering student thinking is not right, so let's engage these teachers into an environment that their voice are heard, that they can actually participate in inquiry or things like that, so they understand, oh, that's how being, oh, that's really nice to be in a situation where your thinking is appreciated, because for all this time, how come you expect teachers to facilitate students' inquiry if they themselves do not know what it is? I think I agree that by redefining what matters on teachers and what good teaching is, it's the very first step that we need to do that. And we cannot do that, or we cannot answer it here, because it's a complex situation. Like the experts have to talk, but again, talk together and sit together to discuss about this. But again, the thing is, like you said, it's not only listing this pedagogical, professional, social, and the other one, the professional, without attaching this to student learning. Pak, have you had any chance to see what it means by social competence of teacher, Pak? If you see two of them are mantap and stabil, Pak, can you define, can you describe to me what is mantap and stabil personality? It's sad, but okay. That's what the government define on it. Yeah, Pak.
Okay, the other question is, do we hopeless to change is there any immediate that we can do to change the quality of the teacher?
Yeah,
That's
Pak.
the question.
Actually, it's not impossible because some small schools, some small schools with good management, with good commitment of everyone on it, in that environment can actually do that. We see some schools that can do this, but mostly are private school, right, Pak? When so when it's in public school, everyone feel obligatory to follow the system, and maybe even those who have this high motivation, the system makes them themselves, oh, if I do this, then I am different. So being different is not really likable. I don't know for public school, but I'm sure that schools or teachers, if this work together, I think, yeah, it's really promising to do that, Pak. But unfortunately, most of the initiative come from small private school, mostly, Pak.
Is that Padlia Sania mentioned? I suppose the teacher development program as well as regular self-performance review could be conducted for maintaining teacher quality at public sector, following what has been implemented at private institutions, which have high quality international standard. There should be micro teaching at screening stage for future civil servant teacher and continuous observation once they have been selected. That's what actually you argue, right?
Yeah, Pak, kind of, Pak. But again, it's politically expensive for our policymakers, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, it's yeah. So I have question. This is we have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes, and do you think any benchmark any benchmark that we could learn from other countries similar level with us?
Yeah, but if you ask about that, actually, if we talk about the resources, developing countries with low resources in terms of financial resources, but they can excel in education in the past decade because of this commitment and alignment of the education sector. So if we would like to learn from Vietnam, maybe we can have a look to their studies, what they've done so far in the past decades. But if you want to see more developed countries, actually some countries like Australia, they have this professional standards for teachers, and they try to be they try to define teacher quality very detailed, but also have some stages, Pak. For new teachers, they just expect this much. For teachers who have been teaching some years, they expect this much. So you can see the progress that are expected. In Indonesia, whether you are 0-year experience or whether you are 35-year experience of teaching, you are expected to have that 4 competencies equally. That's that's of course kind of impossible, but that's what our government defined. You cannot expect someone who just graduate from teacher college to be proficient in teaching, but of course they need to have some standards, minimum standards. But when you are teaching already, when you already teach for 30 or 35 years, of course government can expect you to perform more, not the same when you are just graduated from teaching college. So that's one thing. But of course, again, teaching is a complex profession, and redefining teacher quality, as Ibu Dian mentioned, also it's related to many aspects, and we have to consider, like you mentioned as well, we need to not only look at the content, we maybe have to put it in a broader definition, but at the same time, it gives guidance for teacher recruitment, for teacher development, and for even for teacher themselves to self-evaluate whether I already adhere to this standard very well or not. Yeah, Pak.
Yeah, unfortunately, the times we have to end the discussion already 3:30. Probably we should invite again someday. If you, or we have a chapter of rice at the Faculty of Education here. I think we already have an understanding that unless the government address the lack of screening process and the lack of accountability system, we will have problem about quality teachers and we will also have an impact on student learning. So the screening process since the beginning and the accountability system, which involve not just teacher but also all layer of the management. Otherwise, we will, as Bu Shintia argued, we will see the stagnant, let's say, of the quality teacher that we have. We thank you very much, Dr. Shintia Revina, for fascinating and very insightful discussion. Thank you all for joining this discussion. I hope you will have great weekend. Now it's already Friday, so I wish you have great weekend. Goodbye, selamat sore. See you. Salam sehat, healthy for all. Let's end this discussion for Muslim with basma with hamdalah. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. See you, Bu Shintia. Thank you very much. See you again later. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Didin, Ibu Tati.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bu Shintia. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing.
We should have a week for discussing.
Yeah, we need to create a series of,
and
this,
I think,
this talk of policies, ya Pak ya.
Wow.
Next time, this is a good teaser for the future one.